Okay, thank you, Beth. Thank you, everybody, for attending to this 1 hour online meeting, virtual meeting that we'll have talking about the wet pet food. And let me introduce myself first. I'm Victor Dijke. I'm the sales director here for Europe, Africa, Middle East in APC. And I'll be just guiding you through this webinar, introducing the different parts of it. And discussing a bit, kind of reassembling all the questions at the end. In this hour, we'll try to have a view at the wet pet food production from 4 angles, right? A little bit the trends, topics, history. So David Primrose, Director and owner of Synergy Pet Food Consulting, will guide us through what is the wet pet food, where is it trending to, and where are the different markets and the evolution over the last years, because that's probably an application that is rather old than new, right? Then we'll go first with showing you a few production steps. What is the logic behind the production? Some of you may be more than experienced in this, and for some others it will be new. We'll do it showing you a video of our pilot plant at APC in Barcelona, that we have a pilot plant that we use for testing for customers, and just launching here. The message is always open for use. We are glad to do product testing. You will see the different steps in production and in gelling and in finishing those pet food chunks and loaves and other finishings. Dr. Javier Polo, who is our APC Global VP of R&D, long time experience working with our products, block bars, and the wet pet food industry. He will just touch the subject of the binding, of the texturizing, let's say the basic technological points by which you shape and you produce wet pet food, especially at the example of the plasma, which is the product where APC is the world's largest producer. Finally, we'll get to Ole Oxboll, who's the sales director of Source Technology, which is a company of the Wenger Group, presenting the different possibilities to premiumize this wet pet food in wet and semi-moist finishings, texturizing, and increasing the value of the wet pet food, which is, I suppose, what is of the highest interest here for the attendees. Finally, last but not least, as Beth Saxon said, please address during the seminar all your questions to her. We will reassemble them, and whatever time is left before 5 o'clock in the end, we'll try to address the questions, main of questions at least. And for those we cannot address during this time, apologies up front, but we will follow up then personally afterwards. Okay. First of it, a few words on what we're going to see and who is APC. Then each of the speakers may extend on his own personal introduction. Okay. The agenda is, as I commented, you have received it, most of you, will be in the sequence I commented, and we hope to be finished by 5 Central European time. So who is APC? APC stands for American Protein Corporation. It's belongs to a private group, the Lauritsen Group, and it owns 7 companies, one of them being APC, but I'm sure you know some other of the brands you see, like BHA, if you're in the pet food business, Boya Valley, Essentia, and eventually also dairy. So all products, all companies have in common that we're adding value to animal production byproducts, be directly animal byproducts or production animal production. APC is it's not a new company. It's headquartered in Iowa, in the center of the U.S. And since 1981, we've been working on blood products. So we are using one raw material, that's animal blood, that we are separating, processing further, and adding value and reprocessing again and again, making us the world's largest producer of spray-dried plasma or blood products from animal origin. Right? So we're a global company and going into many industries like pig feeding, poultry feeding, pet food feeding, which is our subject today, ruminant feeding, aquaculture or fish feeding, and the plant health, and a little bit on the industrial sphere we're also active. Just two pictures, two groups of products. Mostly what we do is we separate the red and the white fraction, making plasma and making red cell-based products, and that we process further in many animal species, not many, beef and pork mostly, and that are used also in the wet pet food industry. Plasma, Dr. Javier Polo, he will extend himself on this, and the red cells that are known by some of you, which are used as a colorant, as a meat colorant, as a natural meat colorant. Okay. We are a global company, so we have these green dots you see. These are the production plants where we have worldwide, and we're shipping all around the globe, right? Whatever this is. As a company, we profile ourselves as a very much research-based company. We are doing a lot of effort, investing always big double-digit figures of our revenue into R&D and into different species, different applications, and trying to lead always the safety, the performance side of everything, any product that is based on blood as a raw material origin. Nothing more. You can visit us at our webpage for further information or contact any of the speakers anytime. And I'll give the word to Mr. David Primrose, who will comment you his views about the future, present, and past of the wet pet food. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just check. Can everyone see my presentation screen?
Not yet, David.
Okay.
We are ready now. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know we have people from many different regions here today. And I'd like to thank APC for inviting me to say something about the evolution of wet pet food. And what I want to do is introduce where wet pet food has come from, and say something about the opportunities and challenges for future innovation and future development. So a little bit about myself and my company, first of all. Synergy Pet Food is the trading name of my company, Synergy Food Ingredients, founded in 2006. I am owner and director of the company, and I have over 40 years experience in the global pet food industry. I am a specialist technical consultancy for the pet food sector. I only work in pet food. I do not work on human food, but obviously there is a linkage between the two. So I just want to start by saying something about what wet pet food is. And wet pet food is product that typically has between 70 to 80% moisture in the product, and we see a diverse range of formats and variety differentiation. The product on this slide is a simple chunks, heat set chunks, oven set chunks in gravy, and this is the type of product that historically has had spray dried animal plasma included. So we see chunks like this. We also see other types of meat, for example, natural chunks, hashed chunks, meat analogues, or in modern terms, fake or faux meat. We hear a lot today about the applications for vegan, vegetarian meat analogues based on plant proteins. But they are not new. They have been around for many years and used in pet food for many years. We also have the heat set oven cooked meat emulsion chunks, which is the main focus of the presentations today. Or we see a combination of these meat formats in combination with gravy, in combination with sauce, in combination with jelly, in combination with broth. And there may also be other things like vegetables, pasta, and other things added to the product. So this slide shows a brief overview of the overall pet food process. The reason why I am showing you this slide, many parts of it are not applicable to the discussion today, but I think it is important that we understand what parts of the process we require functional raw materials, for example, spray-dried animal plasma. So I will indicate where on the process that we see functionality as being important. So where you see the red arrows coming to this process flow are the areas where the functionality of the meats or the functionality of the gelling agents or the functionality of fiber is important. For example, we see the functionality of the gelling agents and thickeners is important during the gravy makeup. The functionality of the meats is important during the heat setting process. For example, this is where the spray-dried animal plasma will be used. And a combination of the meats and gelling agent or thickeners is important during the mixing phase, where we are mixing the meats to form chunks and loaf, pate or terrine type products. And then, of course, once we've done that, we need to make sure that the product is able to withstand the sterilization process in the pouches, the trays, the cans that the product is packed into. So this next slide shows a little bit about market trends in wet pet food. This is some data from Euromonitor International showing the trends in wet pet food sales value in the EU between the period 2003 and 2018, with a prediction on market growth through to 2022. I've also indicated on the same chart the estimates for the dog and the cat population over that period. And if we look forward to 2022, we can see that the market is expected to continue growing, and that the main driver of the market growth is in wet cat food. Now, I put on the slide that this data was before the coronavirus pandemic. So we need to wait and see what will happen to the market as we move through the pandemic and into recovery. So I now want to have a look at some examples of wet pet food through history, and look at some examples of wet pet food that we see on the market today, and then give you a flavour for the opportunities and challenges that we have to face to maintain the importance of wet pet food in the market and continue to grow and expand the market. So the first slide I'm showing here is the original wet dog product. And this is a product where people in America saw the opportunity to use surplus horse meat, and they were marketing that as lean red meat. Now, today, horse meat is not acceptable in all societies, because some people see horses as a pet. They classify them in the same way as we would classify our cats and our dogs. But this product, Kennel Ration, was very successful in the market. After its launch in 1922, it went on to gain a market share of 90% of the total pet food sales in the US by 1941. If we think about cat food, this is an example of one of the first cat food products that was on the market. And again, this originated in the US, and the opportunity that people saw to manufacture this product was by co-locating with fish factories located along the coasts of the USA. And the first wet cat food products appeared on the market in the 1930s. This is an interesting slide because if you look at the labels on the right-hand side of the slide, you will see that although these labels have photographed pictures of dogs' heads, the labels are making the claim that they are suitable for feeding to both cats and dogs. And this was the position in the market for some years. And that only changed when we had a greater understanding of the requirements of cats and dogs. And then the innovation that we saw was where there was the diversification into separate forms of dry pet food and wet pet food for cats and dogs. People often say, well, taurine is essential for cats. But the importance of taurine was not fully understood until the 1970s and the 1980s. And that is many years after these types of products shown in this slide had been on the market. Cats are often thought of as being fussy eaters. And this is another example of diversification and innovation in the marketplace. And this is the first indication of different formats, different varieties of cat food to satisfy this view that cats are fussy eaters. So we see these are Purina products, and you can see from the photograph of the labels that there was different varieties being manufactured by them to meet this need of cats as being fussy eaters. One of the challenges we face in the wet pet food industry and the pet food industry as a whole is the challenge of natural variability. And I'd just like to say a little bit about spray-dried animal plasma as a catalyst of innovation. So I illustrated on an earlier slide that functional materials are critical for wet pet food texture. For example, heat set chunks, oven-formed meat. But we have the problem that not all meats have the same functionality. And if you look at the chart on the right-hand side of this slide, this is some published data that shows the gel strength ability, the meat emulsion ability of 3 ingredients that you might find in a wet pet food formulation. So you might find chicken viscera, pork lung, and pork kidney. And this chart clearly shows that chicken viscera has much lower functionality compared to the other meats, and is a good indication of the challenges that we are faced when we are formulating these type of products. The other challenge is that we are talking about natural products, and natural products are all subject to natural variability. They vary animal to animal, they vary country to country, they vary season to season. And you know, some of the big benefits associated with spray-dried animal plasma is it allows the use of low functionality meats, and it gives us control over the variability of the materials we use. And in addition, it gives us the opportunity to create new pet food textures, for example, meat analogues. So I just want to show a more up-to-date photograph of a sample of wet pet food, where I believe spray-dried animal plasma might be used in the chunks shown on this slide. So there are many challenges we face, and I've mentioned the ones of natural variability and meat quality varies, but we also face challenges over sustainability. there will be more humans to feed on the planet come 2050, and we need a way of utilizing the raw materials we use in pet food more efficiently to create what our pets require and what the pet owners are looking for. Our pet owners are also looking for product differentiation. So you will see on this example on the slide, there are peas and carrots in this. That is an example of how we introduce differentiation into products. But another important differentiation is the different types of textures we see in wet pet food. Now, in terms of meeting some of these challenges, use of meat analogues, and I will also include meat analogues based on extrusion of plant protein materials here. In addition to better understanding of pet food science and technology, help us meet these challenges. And, you know, for sure, the highly functional, palatable, nutritious ingredients like spray-dried animal plasma are catalysts for further wet pet food innovation. So just in terms of future evolution of wet pet food, where are we going? And the picture on the right-hand side of the slide is a super premium cat food that's on the market now. And I always think of a souffle if I'm looking at this picture. It has a solid outside with a liquid center. And you know that is something very innovative, and I can understand how they have achieved that. And it's a great example of innovation using good knowledge of raw materials. But just in terms of challenges and opportunities that we will face in the future, the first question on my mind is, what will humanization and premiumization mean? Will we see a change in these definitions? Will humanization focus more on health and well-being in future, or will it focus more on product format? What will product differentiation look like in future? Here's an example on this slide of a product which is very different from anything else on the market. I've already mentioned sustainability, and that's key to support market growth. We need to find ways of using all our raw materials more sustainably. A big challenge, and I have faced this challenge as a consultant, is that many pet food producers do not have kitchen or pilot scale facilities where they can demonstrate new concepts, and many are reluctant to run factory trials due to the size of the trials and the commitment on time, money and resources. There'll be new opportunities come along for sure, and this will be related to a better understanding of pet food science and technology, and these will be catalysts for further innovation. And you know, the other thing I will say, I have seen the facilities at APC that you will see on a later presentation from Javier. And these are fantastic facilities for people who want to look at the possibilities for using animal plasma in the products. And for sure, their products and facilities are catalysts for further evolution of wet pet food innovation. So I'd like to thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions for me, if you put them in the question and answers part, and then we will find some time later on, or I can respond to them privately after the event. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I will pass back over to Victor.
Much, David. Thanks for this overview. As I commented, we'll now go over with a very pictorial presentation, and after which you will see Mr. Javier Fur will jump in directly to comment what David advanced a bit on the binding facilities on the wet pet food on a very good and efficient homogenization tool like it is the spray-dried plasma. Without spending more time on this, we'll show up the video and then Javier will step in directly. Okay, thank you.
At APC's meat pilot plant, we reproduce in a small scale the industry of wet pet food processes with the goal of testing different ingredients. This space allows us to work with our customers and improve their product's quality with different finishing, as chunks, pouches, sausages, pâtés, loaves. At the meat bowl chopper, frozen grounded raw materials are mixed with the different additives at maximum speed. After adding other ingredients like wheat, flour, salt, and water to obtain a homogeneous raw emulsion, plasma is added last. The blending process finishes when the raw emulsion reaches 12 to 14 degrees Celsius. Emulsion then is transferred to the stuffer to produce ropes using the shaper device, more adequate for the target clunk's size and form. Ropes produced with plasma show low adhesiveness to the surface, high cohesiveness, and high springiness. The pet food containing plasma becomes easier for slicing with lower crumbling, helping to reduce product losses in the production process. We also do R&D testing for our customer and third parties. We offer the opportunity to produce and test multiple recipes, which are compared during the different production steps, and analyzing TPA, texture profile analysis, by a double compression cycle, which gives several measurable and comparable quality parameters as hardness, cohesiveness, and springiness, among others. apcproteins.com.
Good morning for the American attenders, good afternoon for the European attenders, and good evening for the Asian visitors. As David said, there are people from different regions today. Today, I'm going to talk about the use of spray-dried plasma in the wet pet food diets. As you can see, plasma can help in all formats of the wet pet food. Plasma can be used in all three, in loaf, in pâté, in terrine, in chunk, in pouch, with jelly, with gravy. Plasma is a ingredient that can be used in all kinds of formats of for the wet pet. Why plasma is a binder in the wet pet food? Plasma provides a gel strength capacity, provide texture to the wet pet food, have a very high water holding capacity. The emulsification capacity also is a characteristic for the use of plasma in wet pet food. And in addition to this, plasma provides palatability. In this picture, you can see the dog, but in fact, plasma is very palatable for cats. Not only in wet pet food, also in dry pet food, cats like plasma. Okay, what is the advantage of plasma, spray-dried plasma in wet pet food diet? As I mentioned, it's a quality binder, improve palatability, improve digestibility, but also allows a high level of protein in the recipes and reduce the starch. You need to take in consideration that plasma have around 73–75% protein. Then the inclusion of plasma always allowed to increase the level of protein in the recipe. why we consider that plasma is a superior binder in the wet pet food. First of all, this is the water holding capacity. Okay, water holding capacity means the capacity of the product to retain water. In this case, we were making gels of 5% inclusion level, 10% or 15% inclusion level of plasma in water, and just heat at 70, 80, or 90 or 121 degrees Celsius. And then we centrifuge the gel and we analyze how much water is going out from the gel. As you can see here, the plasma, the highest water retention capacities start at 80 degrees to 121 degrees in the sterilization process. But this is really interesting because usually the steam tunnels are working at 80 degrees. Then if plasma at that time is when have the higher water retention capacity, means that we'll avoid the exudation of the chunks during the steam tunnel. Also, plasma provides a gel strength. Make a gel. You can see it start making a gel at 70 degrees, and the highest gel strength is around 121 degrees, 155 degrees. This is the sterilization process of the wet pet food. And this is really interesting because you should know that the highest texture, the highest gel strength of plasma is during the sterilization process. This is, for example, this is a gel of plasma. This contains 80% water and 20% plasma. You can see just heat at 1 over 121 degrees. And you can see all the water is inside the gel. For example, when you compare with another binder, another traditional binder that has been used in wet pet food, like with gluten, and for example, this is just a gel with 20% with gluten and 80% water, and heat 1 over 121 degrees, or just plasma. You can see that the gel of plasma have a mixed texture. All the water is inside, 80% water is inside. There is no exudation. Okay, you can see the with gluten, there is a lot of water, a lot of fine. And in addition, if you pressure the gel, there is a lot of water that is going out. Obviously, this is with 20% inclusion level. If you do the same trial, but the same analysis, but instead of 10% plasma or 10% with gluten, you put, sorry, instead of 20, you put 10%. This means 90% of water. The gel of plasma still is able to keep the 90% water inside and not allow the water to go out. Okay. Obviously, you can imagine what will happen with gluten. There is a lot of water outside, a lot of crumbs, more easy to cut. And in addition of this, if you pressure the gel, there is a lot of water going out. Okay. This is another characteristic of plasma, is this emulsification capacity. For example, in this case, we were blending 15 parts of poultry fat with 15 parts of water and 1 part of wheat gluten and 1 part of plasma, and heat at 121 degrees for 1 hour. You can see what happened with the wheat gluten. There is a complete separation between the fat from the water from the wheat gluten. In the case of plasma, you have a perfect emulsion. The fat is not separate from the from the water. You have a perfect emulsion. Okay. Also, plasma provides a very good slicing ability. There are few proteins that you can do something like this, that you can cut, very clean cut the gel. This is very, very important. And the reason for that, why it is so important, is because that, okay? Plasma avoid the crumbs, avoid the fines, especially, and this is really, really important for pouch, okay? Why? For the cats, probably doesn't matter, but for the owner of the cat, the customer that buy the product, they don't like to see this kind of crumbs, because usually they correlate this with low quality, okay? Then with the use of plasma, you reduce the problem of the crumbs, okay? What about comparing with other binders? Well, this is a list. For example, compared with the control was poultry carcass. You can see we have been testing alginate, caseinate, with gluten from 2 to 6%, egg white in liquid, in powder, kappa carrageenan. You can see plasma is the one that provides the highest hardness of the chunks in gravy. similar to 2% kappa carrageenan. You know, kappa carrageenan is quite expensive product, and there are some issues about the use of, there is some concern about the use of carrageenan, as you know. Not only, again, this, for example, compared with pea protein, concentrate soy protein, isolate soy protein, you can see plasma have a better gel strength from 1 to 3%. You have a linear response. And this is really, really important, because this linear response of plasma means that you can decide what is the hardness that you want in your pet food, just adjusting the level of plasma, because have a linear effect. Other proteins don't have this linear effect. The plasma have the linear effect. Even, for example, if you are trying to make a fish chunks only with fish as a protein, with salmon byproducts, you can have this kind of linearity in the hardness of the final chunks. It's almost 1%. The square error is almost 1. It's a perfect linearity. This means that you can adjust what is the hardness that you want with your in your final product, just adjusting the level of plasma. Also, when you compare with vegetable binders like cellulose or fava bean or pea protein or pea starch, you can see that some of them don't have not increase the hardness compared with the control. Few of them already increase a little the hardness, okay, even with 4% inclusion level, and plasma provide 2 times, even with 2% inclusion level, 2 times the hardness. This means that plasma is a good binder for the wet pet food industry. But not only that, plasma, as I mentioned before, improve the palatability. This is a study that we conducted years ago in cats. There was 2 studies with different inclusion level of plasma compared with gluten, and for example, with comparing 1% plasma versus 3% with gluten, you can see the total intake was significantly improved with the use of plasma. Not only the intake, also the first choice. We were not surprised, because obviously cats and dogs are carnivorous and they prefer the plasma. In fact, the palatability for cats is not only in wet pet food. In dry pet food, we have very impressive results improving the palatability when we are using plasma in cats food. Also, plasma improved the stability of the whole diet, the wet pet food diet. There was a study that we conducted 4 years ago, and in fact, we analyzed the digestibility of the whole diets, comparing 2%. We include 2% of plasma in the recipe. You can see plasma improved the dry matter digestibility. There was no difference for crude protein and crude fat, but numerically was higher, but significantly improved in the crude fiber digestibility, as digestibility, calcium, and phosphorus. This can be very interesting for puppies and for senior dogs, and usually they have more requirements for calcium and phosphorus. And also, this allows you to make probably healthy claims with the use of plasma. Also, plasma improves the juiciness of the chunks, and the juiciness probably is correlated with the palatability. The juiciness, let me explain what we consider the juiciness and the concept of cook-in. The cook-in concept is when you make the chunks and you store the final product with the gravy. Ideally, the chunks will absorb part of the gravy during the storage time. And this gravy, when the animal will eat the chunks, will be released. And this is usually correlated with a better palatability. You can see the cook-in effect of plasma. This means the capacity of the chunks to absorb part of the gravy is better compared with gluten. And also, when you analyze the cook-out basically is the fines or the crumbs in the gravy. Plasma obviously reduces the crumbs that I already mentioned before. Also, as David said, plasma allows you to partially avoid the natural difference in quality of raw materials. For example, there was a study that we conducted. We were working with 2 quality poultry carcass, low quality poultry carcass or high quality poultry carcass. And we know that the high quality poultry carcass have a better texture and lower water loss. And then, for example, when we compared with no addition of binder. We analyze 6 different characteristics: the hardness, the adhesiveness, the springiness, the cohesiveness, the chewiness, and the resilience. You can see that not using binders, 4 of these 6 characteristics are significantly different between using high quality or low quality poultry carcass. The same happens with gluten. You can see there are 4 characteristics that are different when you are using high quality carcass or low quality carcass. In the case of plasma, 5 out of 6 characteristics was not statistically different. This means that plasma was able to amortiguate in some way the difference in the quality of the poultry carcass, and the only one was the hardness, but if you see the numbers, there was not too much difference between them. Okay, this is my final slide. This is just to summarize what is the benefit of using plasma in wet pet food. I think that the main reason is that plasma standardizes the quality of the final product in some way, independent of the raw material quality. Okay, plasma is able to manage difference in the water content. Plasma is able to manage the change when you need to change from fresh to frozen animal byproducts. Obviously, the quality of the protein in the fresh is different than in the frozen, and plasma is able to manage this, or plasma also is able to manage difference in the amount of fat. When you are using poultry carcass, you are expecting, for example, that 50% of the poultry carcass will be from the front of the poultry carcass and 50% from the back. Not always is that. Sometimes you receive more back poultry carcass, and the level of fat is completely different, and plasma is able to manage this. As I mentioned before, maximize the water holding capacity. This is really important because wet pet contains 70–80% of water. The viscosity of the emulsion I put here because plasma is not changing the viscosity of the emulsion. For example, concentrate soy protein or pea protein, they increase a lot the viscosity of the emulsion, and this is a problem for when you are changing from one to another formula, because you need to clean the pipeline, and obviously if the viscosity is too high, it takes more time. Plasma is not changing the emulsion, and as I mentioned, improve the texture, the bite and the mouth feel, the cohesion, palatability, slicingability, the juiciness, and improve the intake and the apparent digestibility in cat food. I like to thanks for your attention, and feel free to ask questions during the questions and answer section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Javier. I hope it was very interesting for everybody. Now I have my headphones and microphone, so I hope you can hear me better. Would be a shame missing this out, right? I'll pass on to the next and last speaker. It's Ole Oxbold, Sales Director for Source Technologies, which is a company producing machinery, but that has been, I would say, a certain breakthrough in the industry of trying to see everything we've seen here, all the texture, all this, bringing it to a different level and doing some very nice and specific finishings. Again, I see there's a lot of questions there. Please note them down. We'll follow them up in person or afterwards in written. And I'll give the word to Ole. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. There we go. First of all, I would like to thank Victor for having me in here as a speaker. And again, I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the attendants we know we have from around the world. And I'm going today to talk about texturized super premium product made from the power heater technology and manufactured by Source Technology in Denmark. I'm Ole Oxbold, and I'm the Sales Director for Source Technology. I have more than 40 years experience in pet food and meat industry, and I am the inventor of the power heater technology. Salt Technology are headquartered in Kolding in Denmark, and we have an administration, R&D, test center, and assembly on the same premises. The company was founded in 2006, and then Wenger Extrusion Group in Sabetha, Kansas, they actually acquired the company in 2012. The first power heater was launched in 2010 for super premium product. And we employ 20 people in Kolding in Denmark. One of the main areas in our facility is the test center where all activities are going on with the customer. Even here nowadays with the COVID-19 going on, we are more or less running every week for customer developing recipes online, so the customer can follow actually the process and the end product all the way through. And this goes both for the red pet food industry, the meat industry, and plant-based and snack. In the company here, we have two products. We have inline analysis products, which is used for extrusion process for like fish feed and for extruders for pet food as well. And then we have the power heater. As mentioned, Wenger is our owners, and it's a family-owned business in Sabetha, Kansas, more than 85 years old. And Wenger, they are supplying extruders, single and twin screw, dryers, coaters, and Wenger also have a very large test center, which is actually just being completely renovated, where they're bringing people and customer in for developing of the recipes and new products. So getting into the power heater, what is a power heater and why are we able to make texturized super premium product? First of all, I would like to say that the power heater is not an extruder. The power heater is an indirect thermal cooking process where we can make shear on the product, and in combination with the product shear and the recipe, we are able to make a texturized super premium product. And what do we mean about that? The picture you see here comes from a meat emulsion, and here we actually generate like muscle meat again. And the type of the meat here depends on the formula. The formula and the meat for the power heater is a very important part. We need functional protein. And in the pet food industry, everybody knows, which are working in there, that the raw material, even whether they're frozen or they're fresh, when we buy them in, they will vary in quality. You may think you're buying one thing, but at the end of the day, it may not be complete the specification. So here, the plasma is one of the ingredients which actually can help you standardize the recipe so it will be functional, being able to work. When we prepare product for the power heater, we are using typical fresh and frozen meat, and all this meat is ground. After that, it's going into the mixer. In the mixer, it's important that you extract the protein so you get the full functionality of the protein from the meat and also from the ingredients. After you have a complete mix, we send it to emulsifier. And from the emulsifier, the product is actually ready to get into the power heater. We pump it into the power heater, and after the power heater, you have two options. You can either cut the product in line, and then you can cool it and send it further on, or you can cool the product and then you can cut it and send it further on. That's how it's done. So we go from a meat emulsion, go into the power heater, we make the chunks, and then we have it ready. That's the process. So what's happening inside a power heater and what happens in the process to be able to do this? We have a feeding system, first of all, for the meat emulsion, and that has a freeze to dry so we can control the flow. The power heater has a screw, and we have various configuration of the screw depending on what product we want to make. The screw can also be adjusted in speed. The screw is heated with indirect steam, and we have 3 barrels, and the 3 barrels can also be heated by indirect steam at the same time, or we can decide to switch some of them off, or again depends on what product we are running. Typical temperature coming in for product will be between 10 and 15 degrees Celsius, and we have at the outlet end here we have a temperature sensor with a set point, and the set point will be 80 degrees Celsius. So when the product gets in here and it starts traveling through the screw, we will heat it from both sides, and with the screw we will make a shear in the product, and then when the product gets to the end, it's fully cooked all the way through 80 degrees, and here, depending on the slide you saw before, you can cut it or you can send it into the cooling belt and move on. We have a totally enclosed system here, so there's no evaporation, no exhaust system required. 1 kilo gets in, 1 kilo gets out, no losses. So this is how a power heater system works. In this power heater system here, we can get them with 1 screw or multiple screws. So with this system here, you are able to make product all the way from almost economy. We typically say if you really want to go for an economy product, you should not look at buying a power heater, because the power heater is made for texturized premium or super premium product. So the typical protein level on this product here will be like 18%, and the bottom here could be 26%. So you have a variation on what product you want to make, and can adjust this on the recipes with the product going into the power heater. What you see here to the left is an typical economy product on the steam tunnel. And as you move on here, the protein level goes up here for super premium texturized product on the power heater. The product to the left, if you squeeze it by your fingers, you know, it's like a swamp, you know, it would just be like a emulsion to your fingers. But the product to the right is like a muscle meat, like meat again. And this is really what is a texturized product all about. Here you see some different products before it's cutting, where you can actually see from a meat emulsion you are creating like a real piece of meat again. I mean, this, we're talking about humanization, and this is also product actually used for the human food, just with different, call it raw material getting into the recipe, but it's exactly the same thing. So if you look at kind of the price level goes hand in hand with the protein level going up, the prices are going up. And the good thing about here, when we look at the market today, which you also saw on the slides from David, is the cat food and the super premium product is where the growth is. So if you really want to be a part of this, either with a high protein or with the more standard protein with the 18%, then you are able to be in this range here. This is a typical 16% protein product you see here, and that will then be cut into a pouch, typical a pouch product for cats. So it will end up with approximately 8% in 8-9% in the finished pack of pouches. The product you see here is a 26% protein, and it's just to demonstrate that the technology can do either or. It's just a matter of you have to add additional protein ingredients to the recipe, because by meat only you cannot achieve 26%. And the system, because we are also using this for plant-based product, also for human food, where we typically are running the most recipes are around 26%. So it's very flexible to achieve both. And now I know on this system here, the video on your end may not run very smooth, but I hope you can see the texture. This is almost like a tuna meat you see here. So this is absolutely a super premium texturized product. High protein, what you see here. Now, the system can also make snack. So we actually, there is a commercial snack on the market as well. So by changing the recipe and the ingredients list for making snack, where we remove like phosphate and change it, you can run the product out in different ways on the machine. So if you look here, you can get them out like a strip. And this is like a semi-moist snack where it's been dry. You can also run it out like you see to the right picture here, where it's more rough, more natural. And it can run all species as long as we have functional protein. And the very last slide I have is just to show some different type of snacks you can imagine. We have prepared a video actually demonstrating the power heater in operation. And I would like to send you further on here and enjoy the video. And after the video, I will turn it back over to Victor. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Source Technology Test Center. We would like to demonstrate today the power heater technology, how to make texturized super premium product for pet food. We are now preparing the recipe for the texturized super premium product. And what we have right now here is the chicken carcasses. We have the liver, and we have the chicken MDM, salt, phosphate, and 50% of the water. So this process, we have actually run the temperature up to +2 degrees. We have extracted the protein, which is extremely important to make a super premium product, so the fat, water and protein is bound together. And you can see this emulsion is completely activated as far as the protein and water. So now we have added remaining ingredients like plasma and GUA and remaining water. And now we have the final emulsion to send through the power heater. We are now sending the emulsion from the filler into the power heater, and the temperature, start temperature is approximately 10 degrees. So when we send it through the screw with indirect heating with the steam, we are heating the product up to a set point of approximately 80 degrees, which you actually can see on the panel here. Now we would like to show you the product. We will take some of the product out by our bypass valve here, just to check that quality and everything is in line with our expectation. So now we would like to demonstrate the FlexiCut, where we are pumping the product in through the FlexiCut. Here we have an operator panel where you can adjust whether you make cat food, dog food, or to snack, which we will demonstrate. Right now we are running pieces, you can say pretty small. So you can make like this, or you could make them smaller, depending what cats you want to make. And here, now we're just gonna change the setting to 500. And now you see immediately you get larger pieces. So just by changing the settings on the operator panel, you can change the size immediately. We will do one more change on the setting. Now, if you make for large dogs, you simply just slow the knife down, and then you have chunks for the dogs. And then if you want, maybe somebody would like to make kind of a snack, we can even make them out in large slab, what we call them, and then they could be dried. You can see we can get the complete slab, and you could actually dry that into a pet food snack. So here we have taken a few samples from the test we ran, and the first one here is for small cats. The medium one here is for small dogs, and then we have one here for larger dogs. And as we said in the beginning, it's all about the texturizing of the product. It's like muscle meat, it's texturized, it is super premium. And finally, we just want to demonstrate for you these texturized meat here. I just picked some of the commercial product which is out there. So these products here are manufactured on the power heater and sold commercially.
Very quiet. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks, Ole, for all these enlightening videos, discussions, everything. We have quite a long set of questions. We are running out of time, as I guess is usual in any webinar, especially seeing how interesting this was. I'm picking a bit from the audience, a few questions, then we will answer, we promise, or we'll follow up everything individually then in written with all of you. We register all the questions. So maybe a little question to Javier. So there is a question in the audience about what is better in plasma, beef, pork, mixed for this pet food, or poultry? That's
well, this is a good question. Honestly, we have been testing porcine and bovine plasma, and as we don't see difference between porcine or bovine plasma. Basically, both of them have, both products have the same specification. We don't see difference in gel strength or water holding capacity. We are able to provide pure pork plasma, pure bovine plasma, or a blend of porcine or bovine. We are not producing poultry plasma, but we have been testing poultry plasma. The problem of the poultry plasma is that usually the protein, or at least the product that I had been testing, yeah? The protein level is lower and the gel strength capacity is much lower. Other than that.
Thank you. And maybe adding to this, there was also another question if there's difference between suppliers of plasma. I'm sure there is, like with any other product. Normally we would not to comment. The only thing, just a message, you must make sure that you have a serious supplier processing the product well, because the processing quality of this will impact directly fundamental parameters like you're using, like the gel strength. Okay, so that is would be the only one. I have a question here for Ole. There's a question in the audience on the qualities of the raw materials, right? You're talking about good proteins and so on. What is the protein level? If you can have a couple of indicative points of what you need to use your power heater adequately.
Yeah, well, the power heater is a kind of equipment if the protein level is not correct in order to a recipe, you are not able to make texturized product. And what we see in the pet food industry, it tends to be category 3, which is food grade raw material. But by buying in raw material fresh and frozen, there's a big variation in the consistency. So therefore, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work if you don't use like a plasma or an additional protein booster, so you make sure that you always are up on the plus level in terms of protein level to ensure that you get your super premium product. And I think this is one of the major problems in the industries all along, so you don't get wasted material.
Good. Okay, thanks a lot. And now, last but not least, we're already exceeding a little bit the time. We're talking about gel strength, about performing functionality, about good finishing with this power heater and the requirements. So about premiumization, if we may invent this word, right? David has shown growth of the different segments in the industry, but there would be maybe one question inside. You comment about cat food. What is growing most inside the cat food? The premium, the non-premium?
Okay, so before coronavirus came along onto the planet, the premium sector was growing most strongly, and then the economy sector and the sector that was growing, showing the lowest growth, was mid-price. Now, looking at the data on my slide, if you look at that in more detail, then the expectation is through to 2022, the picture will be the same. So the premium, super premium sector is expected to grow most strongly. The second highest growth is expected in the economy sector, and then the mid-price is the lowest growing sector. Those are very broad categorizations, but we need to see what will happen due to the coronavirus effect. The pet parent bond could drive people to buy more premium, but if there is a big hit on the economy in terms of how much people can spend, then the economy sector might grow more strongly. So we need to watch what is happening as we go through the pandemic and into the recovery phase.
Thank you. But all in all, it's a good perspective for wet pet food.
Wet pet food. I love wet pet food, so I am very happy to see it is expected to continue growing.
Okay. And for now, looks like good also for the premium finishings, right? So, well, thanks very much. Thank you everybody for attending. So we still have 100 panel attendees still there. Thank you for holding with us over time. Just a brief question to the host, Noelia or Beth. I mean, I think, well, we can collect all the other questions. We will answer them directly. And if there's any further question, I suppose we can have some contact, if not via the links you received. Or is that correct?
Absolutely. I've kept all of the questions off to the side. So anything that we didn't get to during the presentation itself, we can have each of the presenters follow up directly after.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everybody. And I wish you all an excellent rest of the week.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
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 Thank you.